well. Just a couple of housekeeping items, guys, and best practices, so to say, as we go through this webinar. So first and foremost, welcome everybody who is able to make it with us today. We're super excited to have you here and looking forward to providing you more information of this intro course here with Natalia. So first and foremost, Shige is on tech support. So if you any questions, please direct message Shige. He will help you with anything you need from a tech opportunity if you're seeing that as well. So please feel free to direct message him. Natalia is here, of course, for questions as well. So please direct message her, especially throughout the webinar when you're hearing anything that you may want to prompt a question with. Feel free to direct message her with that, and she will have time at the end to be able to address a couple of those questions. So thank you so much for that. In addition, just keep in mind, we are not offering a certificate in this. This is merely just an intro to the course that we do offer at graduate school. So we're really happy here to have you join us here today, especially with Natalia. And so just keep that in mind as we go through this intro to what Natalia is presenting here today for AI for project management, opportunity limits, and best practices. Okay. So hi, my name is Amanda. I work here in the product area with Graduate School USA, and I work alongside Natalia. I'm really excited to introduce her as our host today. Natalia has been a long time part-time instructor with Graduate School USA. She began, oops, excuse me, apologies. She began by teaching in our project management programs and has since expanded into leadership, human resources, and AI courses as well. She holds a Master of Science in Project Management and is a Certified Project Management Professional, or PMP. Most recently, she had earned a PMI Certified Professional in Management AI credential, which reflects her specialized expertise in leading AI initiatives using practical tool and result-driven approach. What I really appreciate about Natalia here is how she blends strong project leadership fundamentals with emerging AI insight. She focuses on helping professionals build skills that they can apply right away in their day-to-day work. So, Natalia, we're super happy to have you here. I will turn it over to you, and please give her a warm welcome, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amanda. All right, guys, welcome. Thank you for spending an hour with me. I'm really excited to be with you guys and to be able to talk about this really important topic, right? The world is changing on us and we got to get ready for it. Oh, I love all my claps. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start off by sharing my slides. And in retrospect, I probably didn't really name this the best thing on the earth, right? I probably should have made it a little clearer that it's just really a high level overview of AI for project management. But I said AI for project management, opportunity limits, and best practices. So it is going to be high level, but what I'm hoping is that you guys are going to get a lot out of this and that you're going to leave the class or the session, the webinar, feeling like that you can walk away with some knowledge. So the first question is, why does AI matter for federal project managers? And I would argue for any employees anywhere in the world, right? Because what is happening with AI tools are already getting embedded into our workplace software. So if you use Microsoft at work or if you use Google, you already have those AI tools that are embedded in the workplace software. And so the possibility of using AI is there, and we need to understand, how it works and how we can use it the best. What's happening is as we are using AI and as AI usage is becoming more incorporated into work, there are greater expectations for things like being able to get things faster to someone, being able to have more insight, and being able to report more. So, as I'm looking through, and thank you to everybody that put in the chat what you've used AI for recently, you know, being able to use it for creating a marketing strategy or drafting a letter or doing all this brainstorming or researching information, researching case law, researching presentations. I'm not going to lie, somebody said polish emails and I read polish nails and was so confused about that. um, So there's, as AI becomes more something that people are using, the expectations for speed and the insights that it can give us is going to be a part of what people expect from us. So we have to be able to understand how to use it in our work. And AI will, of course, continue to be a part of our life. I was really struck through the weather situations that those of us on the East Coast have had, and particularly in the DC area, we've had more snow than normal. When they talk about the models that they're looking at, now they talk about AI models as well as the European and the American model. So it's just something that's going to more and more become a part of our life. And project management organizations are incorporating AI. And that's why we're going to specifically be talking about AI for project management. And I'm going to talk about how the Association of Project Managers has really jumped on board the adoption of AI. So the Association of Project Managers is called the Project Management Institute, or PMI. That's where my certifications are from that Amanda referred to. PMI is founded in the US, but it's truly an international organization. And they have really been ahead of the game in terms of incorporating AI into the processes and procedures for project management. They did a report called the Project Professionals Gen AI Journey in 2025. And one of the quotes from it is AI isn't on the horizon, it's here now, and it's changing everything. And I think that's a sort of a great way to start the session and thinking about, why do I, as a project manager, even need to be thinking or caring about AI? So these are some of the things that we're going to talk about today. I want you to be able to differentiate between some common AI types. I think that it's really important for us as project managers to understand at a high level what AI is and what it means and how it comes about. And then we're going to talk about how AI is being used in project management today. You cannot use AI without considering ethical, security, and compliance considerations. So we're going to cover that. And then we just want to always reiterate that we have to assess where AI can support but not replace human judgment. I was telling Amanda that the bio that she read, I had ChatGPT generate that bio intro really quick for Amanda. And when I put it in, I said, talk about my master's, my PMP, and my PMI-CPMAI, which is the new certification that I got. And it came back with a description about me being certified in construction project management. It got it wrong. It was completely wrong. And I had to say, that's not the right certification. Here's the link to the correct certification, and I had to correct it. So we can never depend on AI, even for basic, simple tasks, and know that it's going to get it right. So let's start off with just some basics, AI basics for project management. And I like starting off with just sort of the high level definition of intelligent or artificial intelligence, which is systems that perform tasks that require human like reasoning, not human reasoning. We don't really know how we reason, so we can't um, create human-like reasoning, but human-like reasoning, not human reasoning. And artificial intelligence learns patterns from data and generates insight summaries or recommendations. So I like to remind people that AI is not thinking. That is not how it works. It is learning patterns and it's generating things based upon those patterns. So, some of the key terms that I feel like we all kind of need to know is machine learning, natural language processing, generative AI, and prompt engineering. So, I'm going to go through those really quick. Machine learning is the method that is used for AI systems to be trained. So you may hear about machine learning, you may hear about AI models being trained, but basically, machine learning allows the AI system to learn the patterns so that they're able to generate something from that pattern knowledge. And the only way to do that is through having large amounts of data. Um, It takes examples of everything you can think of. It identifies statistical relationships, and it enables prediction and generation from all this massive amount of data that it's been trained on. And so all of the modern generative AI systems like ChatGPT that I talked about earlier are trained using machine learning. Natural language processing, or NLP, is a specialized branch of machine learning that just focuses on human language. And what this allows the system to do is to be able to, read text, understand grammar and how sentences are organized, try to recognize intent, tone, and patterns in language. And so, what this allows Gen AI to do is to be able to talk to us in a human-like way. So, I tell the story that I was using my Chat GPT and I typed in a prompt for something and it made a joke about it. It like made a pun on what I had asked for. And I laughed and I thought, oh my God, I cannot believe that I'm laughing at something that, the computer told me, the chat GPT told me. But the point of the generative AI is to be able to communicate with humans in a human-like way. And the only way to do that is to have this natural language processing occur so that it understands how to format how it's communicating to us, and that it can do things like take meeting notes and be able to read them and understand and not understand, but be able to read them and look for those patterns and figure out information, pull out information from it. So, generative AI uses those machine learning models that are based on tons and tons of data, have been trained, and they are often based on that natural language processing. And generative AI is important because it creates new content. So this is what we're interacting with when we are communicating with ChatGPT. And I'm going to do two demos today with two different generative AI systems. So like I said, that I'm trying to stress, AI does not think. It's predicting, it's looking for patterns, and it's generating based on data and probabilities. So it is not thinking. Okay, so these are some generative AI interface examples, and thanks to the awesome Shige, he has popped up a poll, and I want to ask you guys which of these you are most likely to use. So the first one is ChatGPT that I mentioned earlier. The second one is Microsoft Copilot. So if you use a Microsoft system at work, that Copilot is already integrated into Microsoft Word, for instance. Google has a generative AI called Gemini. We also have Claude. Claude is one that I'm really looking into. I may actually switch from ChatGPT to Claude because everything I'm reading is that Claude is better. I don't know that it is. It's just what I'm reading. And then the final one I have listed here is Perplexity. Now, my 85-year-old father has been using AI for 2 years. He still works and he uses it all the time. And he is a big fan of Perplexity. What I liked about Perplexity, and it's been a while since I've been on it, is that it would always, without having to be prompt, tell you the source of where it got the information from, which can be really, really helpful. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the results. So 48% are using ChatGPT, 31% Copilot, 14% Gemini, only 2% Claude. That's really interesting. 1% Perplexity, and 5% another Gen AI. So that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's good to see just to kind of get an idea. I'm going to demo ChatGPT and one other one today. So I'm going to give you some examples of uses of generative AI. The first one is drafting status reports from like bulleted notes. If you have performance data, you can put it in and it will flag any kind of unusual changes. It can compare to a past performance data. It also can take key themes from large documents. So I use a Google email system. And now when I receive an email, it has the theme of the email at the top. I still read the email and not the description, but I'm sure, that'll probably change as I get more used to it. It also can analyze open-ended survey responses. If anybody has ever done a survey, that can be takes so much time to do that. And so that can be a really great use of using Gen AI. And then categorizing issues that have been received by help desk. But I want to go back through all of some of the things. We have brainstorming. This is from the chat, using it to search. I love, somebody said to find the name of a car part I needed, to come up with procedure ideas, precision descriptions, marketing strategies, lotto numbers. I really kind of like to hear how that went. Um, let's see, setting up a workout routine, help me figure out a new car, research case law, researching for presentations, brainstorming audit risk. That's a great example. Fixing an oven, tech help, edit my personal writing. That's a great one. Cross-check documents for conflicting info. That's another great one. Um, Synthesize feedback for performance reviews and to plan vacations. I love we got a personal redecorate my office, um, redesigning my home closet, summarizing meeting notes, review contracts to summarize, um, creating proposals. So these are all great. I love the examples that you guys gave, to really understand. Oh, good. I got some other ones. Creating performance reviews, travel plans, um, and new cooking methods. I haven't actually used it for cooking. That's a really good idea. So this is the last sort of term that I think is important to know is prompt engineering. And I kind of love this because I am like, will never be an engineer. And so I love that I can be some kind of engineer, which is a prompt engineer. A prompt engineer is basically how you get the information that you need out of the generative AI system. And I am going to I'm going to show you in a minute an example of prompt engineering, but then when I do my demo later, I'm going to show you some of the prompts that I use. But what is really important with prompt engineering, and practice in this example is something you really need to do. It's really being able to clearly and intentionally guide generative AI by providing the information really needed for you to be able to get what you need. So it's very helpful if you provide them the generative AI with context, with a structure, with constraints, and a purpose. And I'm going to give you an example in a minute, which I think will make this probably make a little bit more sense. But poor prompts are going to result in vague, inaccurate, or misleading outputs. And strong prompts are going to give you more usable information. So I'm going to give you an example here. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. I thought I had a prompt example there. Um, but I'm going to give you some examples of prompts. So for instance, if I say, um, you know, let's go back to the example. I don't know if everybody was here when I said that I used ChatGPT for my daughter's college search. She's a senior, right? So we're right in the middle of it, and actually using ChatGPT was very helpful. And, when I started out, I probably said, give me a list of all colleges with over 10,000 students east of the Mississippi River with a good biology program, because she wants to do that. But, as I started using it, and this has been probably over a year that I've been doing this, then I started learning about, how to really prompt it correctly. I put in her GPA, her extracurricular activities, her ACT score. I was able to ask for it to highlight schools that had even more detail than just her wanting a 10,000 plus school with biology. We were able to figure out schools that had the highest acceptance rates for people to go into medical school. Um, I was able to generate her chances of getting accepted as well as her chances of getting merit aid. I mean, so prompt engineering, we teach classes on that, but it's that, and I'm sure those of you who are talking about the way you've used AI, and I'm really thrilled people are using it for personal reasons because I think that is the probably our best way to kind of safely be practicing this, is that the more information you give it, the better your output is going to be. And so really being intentional about your prompt engineering is important. Now, in terms of AI and project management, I told you about the Project Management Institute, or PMI. It is the Association of Project Managers. If you are not familiar with it, you should go to PMI.org. They establish the standards for project management, and more specifically, right now, they are ahead of the game on establishing how to use AI for project management. And I didn't just disappear there. This is the guiding process document that establishes the standards for project management through PMI. This is called the Project Management Guide, the Project Management Body of Knowledge. And they have just this is the brand new version. They've just updated it. For those of you who are thinking about becoming certified as a PMP, the exam is changing on July 9th to fit these new standards. And these standards include AI. So PMI has really been ahead of the game on adopting AI and figuring out how to use it for project management. They also created a certification, PMI Certified Professional in Managing AI, PMI, CPMAI. That is the certification that I got in December. You don't have to have like a technical background, but obviously it was kind of a big push since I didn't have the technical background, but really helpful in terms of understanding how to manage AI projects. So, if we think about from a project management standpoint, um, all the data that it takes to really train these models, organizations are likely going to want to have generative AI models that are trained on their specific data. And that process of getting that data together and cleaned up and ready and training those models is going to be a huge project. I am of the belief that project managers are really well positioned for the change to AI because there are going to be so many projects that are going to have to happen. So, an example of that, yes, thank you. I just got the question, has PMI created an AI model yet? Yes, they certainly have. It's called PMI Infinity. So, what they did is they trained an AI model on all their project management data and information. And so what I'm going to do now is I am going to show you PMI Infinity. PMI Infinity right now is free if you are a member of PMI. So I'm a member of PMI, and so I have access to this PMI Infinity. And it looks very similar to other um, generative AI, right? It has a nice little logo there. It looks the same when you come on. You can see that I used it. I used a prompt here to create some information about a disaster relief logistics project. That was actually for a class, not for a real project. But what I really want to show you about this, so this generative AI model is trained on all the project management information that PMI has gathered since it was created in 1969. That's a very good question. The next question I got is what large language LLM or large language model are they using? I don't know. That is an excellent question. I'm afraid I don't have that information. But obviously it's trained on it takes these other bigger models and then they train it on their specific project management documents. What I want to show you that I think is really interesting that PMI has done is that they have pre-built prompt recommendations. So I just told you how important prompt engineering is, that you have to use the right prompt, the best prompt to be able to get the best outcome. And so they have created all these prompts. And you could say, well, I need a scheduling prompt. And you can click here. I need a change management prompt. Provide a sample change request form that includes necessary fields to evaluate the impact of the change on the project's timeline and resources. Scope management. Develop a scope management plan that clearly defines how scope changes will be identified, assessed, and integrated into the project. So I find that really interesting that this is something that they offer, that they, have created a prompt library. They also have agents. So they have these agents to help you start creating non-functional requirements, a project charter generator, a RASI chart, a risk management plan generator. So they have these PMI Infinity agents already sort of created for you. And then the last thing I want to show you is that they have tutorials. Now, you will note that this is in YouTube. So I actually have a feeling that you could probably go on YouTube and access these PMI Infinity training that really gives you some information. I have not looked, but I'm assuming that you probably can access it on YouTube. So I wanted you guys to be able to see this. I'm not demoing this because you have to be a PMI member to have access. I assume that you could also pay for it, but within the federal system, which is where most of our students are, we, you probably don't easily have access on to PMI Infinity. To join PMI organization, you go to pmi.org. Shige, would you mind putting that in the chat for me? If you guys go to pmi.org, it will tell you how to join and how much it costs and how to get access to everything. Okay. So now I'm going to go back to my slide. Oh, thank you. So Ashkari wrote, PMI Infinity is powered by multiple leading generative AI models, including AI's OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google Cloud's Gemini, and Cohere models. Excellent. Thank you for looking that up. I was going to do that as soon as we finished. Okay, so these are just some examples that we get of how AI could be used if we look at the project phases. And for those of you who are, as geeky as I am about project management, this is talking about the predictive methodology of project management. So when you are initiating a project, you can use AI to create the initial project charters or to help you generate a list of potential stakeholders. During planning, you can use AI to identify project risk and to generate potential risk response plans. During executing of the project, you can summarize meeting notes and track action items that need to be done. During monitoring and controlling, you can analyze any kind of trend data that can really help you highlight schedule and cost shifts. You also can run scenarios. So if you have to make a change with your project, you can run scenarios on the different ways you could implement that change and how it could potentially impact the project. And then for closing a project, you can use it to generate project retrospective summaries. So these are just some really high level uses of AI in project management. What I want to show you now is from going back to the Project Professionals Gen AI Journey, which was a report that PMI did in 2025. And I'm doing thank you, Shige, I'm doing a poll right now to ask you guys where on your projects you think you would most benefit from using AI. So what this slide is showing us is that when they did this survey, these are the tasks that project managers reported that they saw productivity gains with using Gen AI. So the first one is data analysis. And we know that Gen AI is really great at analyzing a lot of data, right? So it's a great way for us to do data analysis. Also benefits from planning and monitoring. So I want you to think about when you're working on your projects and you're planning your project or you're monitoring your project, how long does that take you and where could generative AI maybe help you save some time and effort or be more efficient or more effective? Summarizing and reviewing content. It sounds like from the chat, some of you guys are already using it for that. Risk identification and management is another example. A lot of times risk is really, when I have done risk identification on projects, often it is just brainstorming, right? Let's brainstorm risks from what we know from the knowledge that we have in the room because we've all worked on different projects and we have different backgrounds and experience. But doing that with the brainstorming with Gen AI is just giving us so many more data sources to pull from, right? Because it is trained on so much more data than a group of people in one project can possibly have. Budgeting and cost management is another way that we utilize or that we can utilize Gen AI, but that we've actually seen productivity gains. Reporting, and I think that's probably the first one, both reporting and communication. So you guys talked about using it for reporting, but we had people talking about it having, I think somebody said they use Gen AI to like help make their emails better, right? It does help us be a better communicator. My passion around project management is really around what I like to call success skills. Some people call them soft skills. I don't like that term. But communication, when I was in graduate school, my professors would always say the most important thing in project management was communication. And I do think that there is a real opportunity for us to maximize our ability to communicate with other people by putting in to ChatGPT prompts to communicate with specific people in the way that person wants to be communicated with. So some people may prefer really short and succinct emails. That's a personality type, right? Some people want all the data and background and statistics. Some people want it more focused on like how it's going to impact people. So I really think from a communication standpoint that that's a great way that we can really find some productivity gains and just have more successful communication. Decision support is another productivity gain because you would never want to use AI to make decisions, but you can certainly use the information that is generated from it to make stronger decisions. And then talent and resource management. So let's see what everybody came up with. So I had the most is 31% of you said for summarizing and reviewing content. 22% of you said for data analysis. 17% for planning and monitoring. 9% for risk identification and management and for reporting. 6% communication, 5% decision report support, and only 1% for talent and resource management, which is really interesting because I did see a couple of people say that they were using it for performance reporting, which I would put under that talent and resource management. Okay. So let's just talk about a sample workflow, right? So the project manager identifies that there's a problem or a need that exists, and then they have to determine what's the most effective prompt that I can use. And once you put that prompt in, AI is going to generate something, a draft or analysis or whatever. And the important part is that the project manager is going to have to validate the accuracy or bias. And often what ends up happening is in addition to validating the accuracy or bias, they often have to prompt more times to get exactly the information that they want. And certainly the project manager has to be applying their judgment in context. and the project manager ultimately owns the outcome. So we know that being a project manager, we are ultimately responsible, right? And so this is just an added responsibility when it comes to using AI that we're going to have to be aware of. I'm seeing some questions about the PowerPoints. I do not believe the PowerPoints are going to be made available, and I really appreciate. I'm a big note taker, so I appreciate that. Um, Someone commented that they're trying to take notes, but I'm going kind of fast. This is going to be saved on the graduate school YouTube page, so you can watch it again. We don't give out the slides, but you can definitely watch this video again. And hopefully that will make up for me maybe talking too fast. A lot to try to get through today. Okay, so this is my prompt example. An example of a weak prompt is write a project status update using the provided information. Okay, so I haven't given it context. I haven't given it any detail. So we know right off if we look at, thinking about context and all that, that is a weak prompt. We're not going to get as good an outcome from Gen AI if we use that type of prompt. A stronger prompt is act as a project manager. So we're telling Gen AI the mindset that we want. This is the context. You are a project manager. Using the provided information, draft one-page status update for a federal IT modernization project, including schedule, risk, and next steps using plain language suitable for senior leadership. Do not include sensitive data. So when I'm about to demo for you guys, and then we're going to talk about ethics, and that's why that do not include sensitive info or sensitive data is coming in, because we do have to be clear on that. But you can see how much stronger this second prompt is, and that we're generally going to get much better information from that second prompt. So what I'm going to do now, like I said, I don't want to, because most people probably do not have access to the PMI Infinity. I don't want to prompt using PMI Infinity. So I am going to share ChatGPT, and I'm just going to pop it up, and we're going to do a quick demo in my ChatGPT. So just in case you haven't seen ChatGPT or you haven't been using AI yet, you can get an idea for what it looks like here. I do have mine hidden, but I will open it quickly to see that you can organize by projects and stuff like that. But one of the things that I was thinking about in terms of doing a demo is, what happens to us a lot of times as project managers? Well, somebody comes up and says, "Hey, we have a project that we want you to manage." And they usually will give us a pretty high level description of what they want the project to be. And if you've ever taken any of our project management courses, you know that one of the first things that you want to do is you want to create a project charter. The project charter is the document that authorizes the work to begin. And so what I did here is I went online and I found that the Department of Health and Human Services has a project charter template on their website. And I just know from having been a project manager, a project management subject matter expert within the government system, the federal system, that a lot of agencies have these kind of documents that already exist. And so what I'm going to do is I have added the file, HHS project charter template. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to say, um, fill out the project charter template attached with the following project information. Okay. And I'm just pretending that somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, I want you to manage a project for me." And this project is a grants management system that's 18 years old. It requires duplicate manual entry and all that. And you can see that the goal is to migrate to a secure cloud-based platform that will streamline, integrate, reduce manual entry, and all of that. Now, it didn't even really think. You guys can see how quickly. One of the best things that you can do with ChatGPT is give them a something to an example of what it is that you want as the output. And so that being able to provide that charter template or even being able to provide a past project charter from another project and say, use this form going forward. So you can see that how quickly it has generated the project charter. It has generated the purpose, the project and product overview. It has generated the business need, the business impact. It has lined it strategic alignment to the HHS strategic goals. It's provided me with scope objectives. It has even provided me with high level deliverables or requirements, major deliverables, boundaries, what's in scope, what's out of scope. So I had a question in the chat, like, is this really useful in terms of using it? You know, how valuable it is from my own personal experience? Absolutely. It is not something that needs to be I would never use this without going through and making sure everything was correct. But I can't do this as fast as it's doing it. And even just as a starting point, it makes a huge difference. Yep, I'm going to talk about the privacy safety next. Give me a second, but that's a very good point, and that's one of the big risks is when you put you know if you put somebody's personal information in here, it's gone. It's everybody could potentially have access to it. And when you generate something like this, so this outline, the way it generated, it comes from that document that I provided, but even at the end it says it can do more things. It can create a one-page executive summary. It could turn this into a slide deck. It can add performance KPIs. It can do all of that. So one of the things that I can do once I've started this chat, right? This is one chat, and I have this information in, then I can continue in this chat asking questions. So within this chat conversation, it's going to remember all this information. All this information is here, and I could continue working on it. So let's just say I could say, next, I could say create a scope statement for this project. Now, those of you know that we would want to gather requirements and have more information, but you can see when I see create a scope statement for this project, it's generating a scope statement because the chat, that conversation is continuing. So what I want to do now is I'm going to start a new chat because I don't want to talk about that project anymore. I want to use a different project. And here's an example. This is now a new project. So I've created a new conversation. And I'm saying act as a federal IT project manager using the information below, draft a one-page executive status update for senior leadership. So we know senior leadership reporting is going to be different than, say, reporting for uh, reporting on just risk or just quality or to our project sponsor. And so you can see that it is language suitable for SES level readers. And you can see here that it generated a schedule status, budget status, key risk, mitigation actions, next steps, and all of that. It says, when you make adjustments, how do you feed it back in for chat to modify? So I will tell it it's wrong. If you guys were, I think earlier I was explaining that when I did the bio, it got the wrong, uh, the PMI, CPMAI, it had the wrong, it said that was a construction certification. And so I told it you have the wrong certification, and I gave it the prompt or the link from the PMI website. So you always want to tell it because basically um, you training your own chat GPT, right? So the issue, like I'm thinking about changing to Claude, but I have this thing so well trained around who I am that it's kind of hard to think about changing, right? Because it knows, I always tell it if it's wrong or something like that. So yes, you want to make adjustments, you want to tell it, and you want to continue adding to it so you'll continue making it better. And then I just want to do this last one, which is act as a project risk analyst supporting a federal system modernization effort. Identify 10 potential risks associated with migrating legacy data into a cloud-based platform. Categorize them into technical, operational, and stakeholder risk. For each risk, provide a short description and provide probability and impact ratings and a recommended mitigation for each. Um, it was done before, well, it was almost done before I finished talking. So you can see that just in that fast, this is just the technical risk that it's already generated. Here's the operational risk. Here are the stakeholder risk. It has a category, a description, the probability of the risk occurring, the impact if the risk does occur, and potential mitigation, and even prioritized it. Okay. And then I have somebody asked, how do you do you pull up Chat GPT through Google? Yes. So you could just see here, Chat GPT, and it comes up. We got Claude AI, and it'll come up. So that's how you would access it. Very good question. Yes, you do access it through Google. Okay. And then what I want to do, just because I do want to leave a little time for questions, although I really appreciate you guys have been asking questions, is I do want to talk about, the ethics in federal projects, is, of course, all of you know, is um, incredibly important. As government employees, you're responsible for sensitive data, maintaining public trust, certainly legal accountability for anything that occurs, and then the long-term impacts. And so when I had a question earlier about like what happens, what is the issue about safety and privacy, anything you put into the prompt system in a chat GPT or a Gemini or whatever is not it could, anyone could access it right now. If your organization, and I think this is where AI will eventually go, is that organizations will have their own closed AI systems where other people cannot access it, and that will be protected and have the security protocols and everything that will need to be in place to be able to share that kind of information. But when you're talking about even having a private account, like I pay for my own chat GPT, that information, I can't be sure that anything I put in isn't being used to train other models or to continue to train the model. Anyone can have access to it. So this ethical consideration is really important. And thankfully, the government has provided us with some AI guidance. So there's an OMB memorandum, M2521, accelerating federal use of AI through innovation, governance, and public trust. And OPM has provided an artificial intelligence compliance plan. And this is basically how they're going to comply with this memo. So, and I'm sure that that will continue to occur, that the more AI, just like with email, I mean, was it 30 something years ago before we had email, right? We had to start putting in guidance and how to use email and that's what's going to happen with AI. And the government seems like they're on the right path to provide that guidance. Now, we can think about if I want to use AI for something, um, you know, there's some low risk use cases. So if I'm drafting a project summary or structuring a status report or asking to identify risk or preparing a communication for a stakeholder, those are all pretty low risk use cases from like a privacy security standpoint. I want to make sure that I'm not using any sensitive data, that there's no privacy or confidentiality issues. I want to make sure there's no bias in outputs, which is one of the big issues with these systems is that there does tend to be bias. We need the humans involved to make sure the bias is not happening. Um, Transparency of decisions, record retention, traceability, all of those are key areas to consider and to watch. But when you're using a high risk use case, there are other things you need to consider. So if you're inputting sensitive or non-public data, that would be considered high risk. Using AI outputs as final decisions, definitely high risk. Personnel or performance related judgments, policy interpretations, generating stakeholder communications that are going to go out without being reviewed. Those are all very high risk use cases. And so the questions to ask are, what data am I inputting? Who's going to review the outputs? How will I validate accuracy? And would I be comfortable explaining this decision publicly? Like these are some questions that you need to be asking yourself if you're going to be using data or using AI in a way that might be a little more high risk. I've got a couple more questions. ChatGPT is free up until a point. You can use a certain amount of you can do a certain amount of prompts a day and then it stops you. And there is ChatGPT Plus. I think I pay like $20 a month and then I can use it without, I can prompt as many times as I want in a day. And I'm sure, you know, within a work environment, there's going to have to be a decision about paying for that. Gemini and Copilot, if you're on a Google system or a Microsoft system, are already obviously paid for. Aaron asked, but what if you turn off the train the model option in ChatGPT? I would not probably feel comfortable with trusting that that would be enough security for me to feel comfortable with putting something in that in any way, shape, or form possibly should not get out. I would be very concerned about that. Um, Okay, this is very interesting. Thank you. Perplexity does not keep anything. This is how the Department of War is able to use it. All feds get access for free. Okay, that's interesting. I did not know that. Thank you. Um, Stacy paid $70 for a lifetime access on ChatGPT. That was probably a really good deal there. And then somebody joined late. The slides are not made available, but this is going to be on the graduate school YouTube site, so you can come back and watch it again, watch anything that you missed. Yes, I'm going to write in the chat. I am going to write into the chat. I'm actually going to copy this chat that somebody put about what is free for feds, which is Perplexity. Perplexity is the one that I mentioned earlier. Um, so you can see that all feds get access to free is for free to Perplexity is a comment that someone put in the chat. Health and Human Services, somebody says Health and Human Services has ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini for staff. Excellent. Okay. Thank you for all these good questions. Get ready for some more because we're about to finish up, and I did want to leave us a few minutes for questions. This is another quote from the PMI study about using generative AI. Project management experience and domain knowledge remain essential. Gen AI amplifies rather than replaces professional judgment. And I think that's a really important thing for us to understand. AI is not going to replace project managers. The human judgment aspect is essential. Humans have the ability to consider things like trade-offs or stakeholder trust or long-term relationship building, um, ethical reasoning, accountability. These are all things that AI cannot consider. We need the human to do it. And so I just want to make sure that everybody is clear on that, that that is just so key to everything that we're talking about. And then I wanted to let everybody know that we do have an AI for project management course, and I'm actually teaching it. So I hope that if any of you end up taking the class, you'll tell me you were in the webinar. The next class is offered on March 30th. And the class after that is April 28th. So I'm just going to put this is on our graduate school website. You can see where to sign in, but I am just going to put those dates in the chat really quick so you guys know when that's coming up. So that's March 30th and April 28th. And both of those classes are guaranteed to go. Oh, thank you. Amanda put the link in the chat.
Awesome.
We do have other uh, AI classes. I just want to be clear. We have AI fundamentals for government employees, AI prompt engineering for the government workforce, advanced prompt design and reasoning strategies for government professionals. So I just want you to, make sure that you realize that we have a lot of AI offerings here at the graduate school. So I really appreciate you guys spending an hour with me. Thank you. I got one comment that this was a great use of time, and I really appreciate that. I do want you guys to please note that we are requesting if you have a chance to um, please do a Google review for us. Amanda, you might want to save that or put that in the chat again for us. Did you just do that?
Yes, I put it in the chat earlier. I'll put another one just for easy reference in the chat now. It'd be greatly appreciated just so we get your guys' feedback. Continued feedback helps us do better here at graduate school, and we just appreciate your time today that you spent with us. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, guys. It would really appreciate your attention today, and I hope that I will get to see you guys in some classes soon.
Great
Th-
job, Natalia.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.